Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a huge moment of crisis and renewal from the book of Exodus. It's an incredible story about a sacred promise, a total disaster, and the wild negotiation that literally changed everything.
I mean, really think about that. What happens when the foundational contract, this covenant between God and an entire people, is just completely shattered almost the second it's made? That is the high-stakes drama we are about to get into. Okay, so here we are. This is that moment where everything goes wrong, where faith just crumbles, and a sacred bond gets violated in the most dramatic way you can imagine. The timing here is just unbelievable. Moses is literally up on the mountain receiving the 10 commandments, the actual terms of the deal, and down below, the people, driven by fear and just plain impatience, have already broken the number one rule. This isn't just a small slip-up, it is a catastrophic, fundamental breach of trust. And God's reaction? Well, it's immediate, and it is absolute. The text describes this raw fury, a plan to just wipe the slate clean. We're talking about completely annihilating the people and starting all over again with just Moses. The covenant isn't just broken, it's on the verge of being totally erased.
But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. This isn't the end, not by a long shot. What happens next is one of the most gutsy, intense negotiations in the entire biblical story.
See, Moses doesn't just show up begging for mercy. No, he comes in like a lawyer arguing for the defense. He builds this brilliant logical case. First, he appeals to God's public image. Basically, what will the Egyptians say? Then, he brings up precedent, reminding God of the unbreakable promises made to their ancestors. And finally, in this incredible act of solidarity, he puts himself on the line. He says, if you won't forgive them, then just erase me from your book too. If they go, I go.
Now, what's so interesting here is how this confrontational, argumentative style from Moses stands in such stark contrast to another giant of the tradition, Abraham. The source material really highlights this difference to show that there are two very different ways of relating to God. You've got Abraham, who, when faced with a horrifying command, just submits in quiet trust. But then you have Moses, who, when faced with a terrible decree, pushes back. He argues. He fights to change God's mind. So what we get are two powerful models of faith, one built on acceptance and the other on righteous argument. And here's the kicker. Moses' argument? It works. He actually succeeds. But the result isn't just a simple pardon. No, it leads to something way bigger, something much more profound, a brand new revelation about who God is. You see, this whole disaster forced a conversation that ends up redefining the entire relationship. The foundation shifts away from being just about strict laws and obedience to something much deeper, something built on radical mercy. And this big reveal gets laid out in what's known as the 13 attributes of mercy. You can think of it like a new mission statement, a list of God's core character traits given directly to Moses. This becomes a central idea in Jewish tradition, a whole new charter for the relationship between God and humanity, born right out of the ashes of this epic failure. And this list really shows you the amazing balance at the heart of this new understanding. It's this declaration of incredible compassion and a limitless ability to forgive. But then you get to that last point, it doesn't just erase accountability. It's a really nuanced vision of mercy that's still grounded in ultimate justice. So this one powerful story ends up being a major fork in the road. It gets interpreted in two very different ways that really help shape the separate paths of Judaism and Christianity. So for Jewish tradition, this story is all about renewal. Yeah, the covenant was broken, but through repentance and God's incredible mercy, it was actually repaired and made even stronger. It's a huge testament to forgiveness. Now, in Christian tradition, the same story is often seen as a foreshadowing. The broken stone tablets are seen as a symbol for the failure of the old law, pointing to the need for a totally new covenant, one that's fulfilled by Jesus, the perfect intercessor. So at the end of the day, this ancient crisis is so much more than a story about a golden statue. It's really a timeless model for how relationships, whether they're with each other or with God, can be completely broken by failure and then somehow, against all odds, be rebuilt on a foundation that's even deeper and more merciful than before. And that leaves us with a huge question, doesn't it? A question this story throws right back at us in our own lives.
The tale of the golden calf gives us two powerful answers, leaving us to think about the nature of forgiveness and the incredible, amazing power of a second chance.